diversity is a subject that I'm passionate about. I have worked in a male-dominated industry for quite some time now. I am a chartered civil engineer, and I think I'm an unusual civil engineer actually, because I'm much more interested in people than in tunnels and widgets and things engineering, and that's quite unusual. In fact, one of the sort of mantras throughout my career is helping people understand who are engineers, but they're not actually doing their job for the engineering, they're actually doing it for the customers. And it's quite difficult to actually even get that idea into people's minds. And I've been working with men over many years, and some of them, it's been very impressive the way they really get the idea of the importance of diversity. We were understanding earlier that, you know, there are emotional, logical, rational reasons for it, but a lot of men just don't get it at all, and they'll sit in front of you with their arms folded and say, we don't know what the problem is. You know, it's up to women to sort it out. We're not standing in their way. So it's quite interesting being surrounded by that world. So yes, I'm, as I say, responsible for the transport infrastructure, the sort of strategic infrastructure in London. I just wanted to talk you through a few case studies of what we've been doing in Transport for London over the last few years to tackle our diversity issues. So is there a... Yeah, here we go. So I guess at TfL we describe ourselves as a customer service organisation that happens to be in the transport world. You know, we want people to think about industries just like people think of retail as an industry. We want people to think of transport as an industry, but a customer service industry. And we all know that successful delivery is reliant on a world-class workforce, and we want to absolutely ensure that our pipeline is full of that diverse talent that we need, the potential that we need. Because everyone knows London is a growing city, so think about it, that bucket of jelly babies is growing by the day, by the week. You know, over 30 million journeys take place every day in London. And whilst our primary function is to move people from A to B, it's actually much more important than that, because we do affect people's lives with what we do every single day. We can make their sort of day good to start with or bad to start with. It's about feelings as well as experiences, moving from A to B. And you know, we have got some of the largest, most complex transport programmes that we're delivering. Crossrail 1, Europe's largest infrastructure project, but also investing an unprecedented £4 billion in London's roads through our roads modernisation programme and the cycling revolution that many of you will be familiar with. And so we absolutely want to have a workforce that reflects the city that it serves. So at TfL, 22% of our whole workforce are women, so we clearly do also have still some work to do. Just a little bit more on that. So if you think about the UK population in terms of gender split of being 49%, 51% women, the UK workforce split is 53% men, 47% women, and the London workforce split is 56% men, 44% women. But the transport workforce is split rather differently. So if you compare it with other industries, only 6% of the engineering workforce in the UK are women. So things really haven't moved along much in the 25 or so years that I've been in this industry. And in our operations divisions in TfL, only 17% are women. But in contrast, we have specialist functions such as HR, marketing and legal, where we've got much higher proportions. So in legal, 54% are women, 46% are men, and our director of legal is a woman. So clearly we've got a lot of work to be done, and what specifically are we doing to influence this? So, range of initiatives. One of those is our Springboard Women's Development Programme, which specifically supports the development and progression of women in our organisation at support and middle management level. So all of the delegates on our 2014 scheme felt that they got more self-esteem, confidence and assertiveness as a result of participating. And this is really important because men simply don't understand the fact that women lack confidence in their abilities and that they will only apply for a role when they're absolutely satisfied that they can meet 100% of the challenges in a job description, for example. And men simply don't get that. And once they start understanding that, they might be able to encourage women to apply for roles that they think that they're able to do. So part of this is about, yes, sort of educating our workforce generally, including men, but also giving women more confidence. So 90% of these women who are on our Springboard course believe that the course would help them advance in their career. And they've continued to give positive feedback to others on their personal progress and encouraging others to take on the programme. We're also working with Cass Business School in London, focusing on senior management development, and we've got a senior women's network that's been formed along with Cass with the aim of supporting women to achieve their potential as managers and leaders. We also want to expand our pipeline and attract the next generation. So we're thinking differently about how we engage with schools and the next generation. We're explaining what we stand for as an industry, because what we do is build and operate cities. We don't actually do bus driving, train driving. We actually are outcome focused and we build and operate cities. And we want to try and help people understand that if they're working in the world of transport, that's what they would be contributing to. So we're strengthening the brand of transport so that it becomes perhaps an industry of choice to enable us to compete with top talent perhaps in other areas. So our current demographics at director level and senior leaders at TfL is 23% of senior leaders are female and only 16% of directors are female. Now we are doing simple things that we all know about in terms of removing in application forms references to gender, educational establishments, age, hobbies for applications. And we're also making sure that our selection panels are not comprised solely of 2 white males. But in terms of attracting new talent, let's think about some of the initiatives that we're currently looking at. We've built our schemes such as a Steps into Work and Classroom to Boardroom programme to encourage disabled people, black and minority ethnic groups and women into employment and increase the diversity of school children considering technical careers. And we saw that very moving film earlier about just that area. So we've got an attraction strategy in place to increase the percentage of women candidates who apply for the TfL apprenticeship and graduate schemes. So in 2014, only 20% of our graduate intake were women. In 2015, it went up to 33%, and in 2016, it was more than 40%. So we're making really good progress here. So we're working with some marketing agencies such as Bright Futures, focused on targeting university societies with large numbers of women members. And we showcase women from our schemes and in the kind of organisational publications, contrary to a lot of technical press, which generally feature men in PPE rather than women thinking about things and really solving problems. So we introduced situational strength testing for the recruitment of our 2014-15 graduate apprentices, and that's an area that I really wanted to sort of share a little bit in terms of a case study. We've moved away from written competency answers, which has had a really positive impact on social mobility and underrepresented groups. Our schools programme aims to attract young people into the transport industry, including apprentices and graduates. It addresses the scarcity of key skills within subjects such as civil engineering, IT, IM, and indeed customer experience. So what we're doing is we're investigating what children and teachers feel would be useful to guide Year 7 pupils, especially girls, towards appropriate careers. Our schools challenge involves students from across the capital presenting ideas for improving London's transport network. So teams who reached the finals were made up of 54% boys and 46% girls. So it's working in schools. It's encouraging. We have a new careers website which enables young people to explore careers through a plotter game. I don't know whether any of you have seen Plotter Site. It's a really, really good website, simple kind of psychometric approach. The test dynamically matches them to potential careers, provides information about routes to those careers, including apprentices, etc., and highlights how their current skill level aligns with that. And to date, we've had more than 70% of the users being female, and the majority of users aged between 14 and 21. So let me talk to you about this smart sourcing. It's about actively breaking down barriers that certain groups face in employment or in progression. So, because really being diverse is not just about gender or ethnicity, it's about thinking independently together. Sometimes it's about language. I mean, we've had experiences of having exactly the same job description where we've changed the job title and got a completely different application base for it. And in terms of starting recruitment, when we're going out to the market, we won't actually start the recruitment process unless we've got a pool that is 50-50 male-female. So we just keep trying and keep trying and keep trying until that pool goes up. But I just wanted to specifically share with you the situational strength approach that we've had. Because for graduate recruitment, both the video interviewing and this situational strength testing have really kind of helped, I think, get a different group of people applying to the organisation. So we do video interviewing, and that's enabled us to move with the times and to connect, I guess, with the forever growing online and mobile population. It was hugely appealing to enable candidates to choose when and where they completed their video interview at a time of their convenience and in the comfort of their own home, using a laptop, mobile or any other device. They just sent in their video when it was ready. It's based on the principle of positive psychology. If you're in a role that plays to your strengths, you'll be looking to learn and develop, to perform better whilst you enjoy what you do. So strength-based interviews focus not simply on what you can do, but motivation about what you love to do, enabling us to find those better suited to what we are looking for as an organisation. So it also allows us to assess against potential. Given the lack of experience that a lot of graduates come with, they're not able to fully demonstrate their capability. So instead of just assessing against a candidate's past performance, we'll also assess whether there is something they enjoy doing. For example, problem solving, planning and organising. As a result, they will be more likely to succeed at certain careers in TfL. And just a bit more specifics on this. There are 8 key strengths that we're looking for, all of which are aligned with our core values and behaviours at TfL. So I'll pick a couple of them. So if you think of our core values and behaviours, change and innovation, the strength we're looking for is resilience, and we can test that. If you're looking at stakeholder management, the strength we're looking for is relationship building and relationship management. If we're looking for people with results focus, we're actually looking for people who want to implement things, want to do things. And if we're looking for problem solving and decision making, we're looking for a strength as an initiator. So, in a bit more detail, this is an example scenario. I'll share these slides with you, so that if you want to look at them at your own leisure, then please do. But in this example scenario, we ask the candidates to imagine they're part of a team that's looking into how the transport system will need to change to meet population growth. And we all know that's happening in London. And then we ask them to rank their preferences, with 1 being what they're most likely to do, 5 being what they're least likely to do. And from this example, we can determine if they're interested in long-term planning projects, or whether they prefer projects with more immediate delivery milestones. It's also interesting to see if candidates are motivated by making a real difference to people, as I am, or whether they're motivated by high-profile projects to reference on their own CV, which is most men that I know. We hope both, of course, but it's interesting to see what order they rank in these options. So we build on this first stage of assessment by combining these strengths with competency interview questions. So in this scenario, and again, I won't dwell on this, but we're assessing the candidate's competency level for the results-focused competency. So we ask, would others describe you as someone who always sets themselves challenging goals? And their responses are assessed against various indicators. So in addition to the recruitment of graduates, we're also engaging with schools and colleges to develop the skills we want in the transport industry. So one of the things we're doing with that is Innovate TfL in association with Clichat, and it's an opportunity for year 12 and 13 students to develop the skills employers want and win work experience in our organisation. So they're supported by us as an organisation, and they work at either their school, college or youth organisation, working in teams, and they make a film presentation in the school, up to 5 minutes, with all the team members contributing. They make an advert for their innovation, a 30-second advert, which could be an animation, infographics, and then a design of their innovation in any medium that they choose. And then team members are assigned roles that reflect the real world, and the best teams are shortlisted, and so it goes. There's another initiative that allows us to engage with young people to inspire them to consider a career in transport industry, and allows them unique insight into what life is really like inside a large organisation such as TfL, because people don't really understand what it's like working in our world. And finally, I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about our flagship programme to engage with women in the transport industry. It started life as 100 years of women in transport but its legacy has now become Women in Transport. So it started in 2014 when it was the centennial anniversary of the First World War. A significant, I guess, moment in the history of transport when 100,000 women entered our industry to take on responsibilities held by large numbers of men who went off for their military service. And we wanted to commemorate those women and acknowledge their significant contribution, which often goes forgotten by historians. And many things go forgotten by historians about in history, actually, because Waterloo Bridge, for example, was actually built by women in the Second World War. And even on its opening, it was actually all the men were acknowledged who built the bridge, even though we all know that it was women who built the bridge. Interesting. So, as I say, we launched 100 Years of Women in Transport in 2014. Jointly with the Department for Transport, Network Rail, Crossrail, Women's Transport Seminar and the Women's Engineering Society. And the overarching purpose of that programme was to celebrate the really important role that women have had in our industry and to engage and motivate and inspire current and future generations of transport workers, but particularly women. And we set a real mandate for action. We mobilised our industry. I don't know whether any of you have seen the world record that we broke with a leaping high five in Horse Guards Parade for National Women in Engineering Day, for example. But our key areas of focus were a purpose and brand for the industry. Help people think about transport as an industry, as I said, like retail, like fashion. An awareness campaign, these 6 industry sponsors representing different sectors of the industry, and an interactive toolkit for teachers, parents and children with many programmes of events throughout the year. And the new policies on the back of that, what we've been creating, returnships, inspiring the future, making sure our work experiences are 50-50 represented, and having female representation on the TfL board. And actually the new TfL board has more women than men on the board. So I guess these policies will shape the legacy of the programme and the lives of women in London, I hope, because I'm very proud of that programme and what it's achieved for London, and starting for people to understand what a kind of outcome-focused world transport is, rather than an input-based world. And I think that's really inspiring for women and girls particularly to think about what career they could have in our organisation.